there.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine.
Awesome. I'm so excited about today.
Isn't it nice to be and get on a Zoom meeting and not have to wait for 20 minutes for someone to appear?
Yes, it's really nice.
I know. I mean, not to bring up all that stuff again, but it's like, honestly, it's those little bitty blessings now. I'm like, oh, wow, somebody else knows how to be on time. Wonderful.
Oh my goodness. You know what? And I think maybe I feel like after I left, like things were already going downhill, but it seemed like it got massively worse.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I think it did too. I don't think I hit the worst parts of it either. Definitely think there were a lot of ways that she didn't know our business and support us, but I think it went really down. Like it started to get really, really bad probably my last 3 months or so.
mm,
So yeah, some of those people definitely had it worse than we did.
yeah. So
I'm
I'm
gonna
just
make sure that
I'm
my mic, is it coming through my mic? I don't know that it
uh
I don't know that it is. Let me go to my Zoom settings because let me go here. Preferences. Oh yeah, I think I'm on my mic. Good deal. Okay. Yeah, so I'm really excited to do this too. I've just really enjoyed following your Facebook post, and it seems like you're a mixture of true, genuine spirituality, but also understands the law of attraction and the mindset and belief stuff that's interwoven into everything that you do. So I thought that would be really helpful to talk to my audience about.
yeah, I would love to do that. Just sharing my faith and sharing like how I feel like we can all find peace in this moment. And I think sometimes I really think that this moment in time it's tough, right? Because everybody's home. Some people's businesses are just doing amazing, others not so much. Like it's this huge pendulum that many of us are on. But how can we find peace like in the middle of the storm? And how can we also pivot? Because there's an opportunity there, I think, if we can say, okay, I'm sad, I've grieved. Let me figure out how I can pivot in this hour because there's ways for people to pivot with power and not just kind of rest in the fact that they feel like it's hopeless. I have no control over the situation, and we really do.
Yeah, I see that too. I see that some people are pivoting, and then some people just threw in the towel and gave up real quick. And so I think all of that's going to be really relevant for our audience. My goal is to keep this under 30 minutes. So I'm going to kind of be keeping track of us. And I will do an introduction. I'll probably do a shorter bio just because I find that people tune out fast. You know how
Yeah,
that goes. And then we'll just jump right in. Does that sound good?
that sounds amazing. Let's do it.
Well, greetings to my She Finds Joy group, and I'm excited to interview a colleague and friend of mine, Ticora Davis. Ticora is the attorney, author, and speaker who is pushing culturally relevant legal representation to Black women and creatives of color. And here's one of my favorite parts of her bio. She says, as a purpose activator, Ticora seamlessly blends her knowledge of creative business law with her passion for pushing women to birth their dreams and achieve economic freedom. Welcome to the show, Ticora.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
You're
So
welcome. I was explaining that I really enjoy a lot of your Facebook posts because I know some people are thinking like, well, what am I going to get out of this? Because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, and you are so much more than that. You really are a purpose activator. And so I really love following your social media posts because I see a blend of you definitely going to bat for women and women of color especially, but wanting all women to achieve their dreams. You have your attorney and legal business, but you also seem to really weave in your spirituality and the law of attraction and this abundant mindset. And so I think that makes you the perfect guest for my show.
oh, thank you so much. for recognizing all parts of me. It's been quite the journey to just say, let me just show up as my full self, because I felt like I had to split myself in all these little parts. So, okay, I can encourage people with my faith here, and then I can only talk about law and business stuff here. And I started realizing that I was just splitting myself up over all these different places. And I was like, I can't do that anymore. I have to show up as my full self. And that has given me so much freedom. And it's drawn even more people to me because they see themselves in me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of feel like that too. I feel like I have like Strobel Education, which is my education consulting business. And then I have this other entity over here, which is Kim Strobel, the happiness coach. But like they're very much married together. But at times they still kind of are their separate entities. And it does make life kind of hard. Whereas I'm working on just bringing them all together as one. So I like how you explained that. So I want us to want you to take me back to who was Ticora before she was all of this. And you know, I know you've had some struggles and some tough times, and so kind of paint a picture, if you don't mind, of who you were and your pathway to getting to where you are today.
Wow. Okay. I will try to give the Cliff Notes version. So I would say about 5 years ago, it was 2015. And amazingly, 5 years ago today, which is March 31st, I found out I passed the bar exam and I became an attorney. So what a joyous time.
And how old were you at the time?
Oh goodness. Okay, I am, how old am I? Okay, I must have been about to turn, I was 30. Okay, yeah, I was 30. Yeah, because I'm about to turn 35. Yeah.
Okay.
I was 30 at the time, so I'm about to turn 35 next month in April. And I found out, yay, I passed the bar. And so I was really excited. Continued to work at the job I was at. Found out I was pregnant with my first child. We were so excited. And I think the day I told them I was pregnant, they were like, we have to cut your hours. And
No
now,
way.
and it wasn't, the company I was working for was an amazing company, but things just weren't going well for them at the time. So they were cutting all staff. So it wasn't like they were doing anything wrong. So they just had to cut my hours. And eventually I got laid off at like 4 months pregnant. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do?
Because you
Um,
have student loans, you've paid for this law degree, there's no money, you finally land a job, you're making some money, you get pregnant, and now you're without an income.
exactly. And so my husband was just like, just relax. I'll take care of you. You don't have to worry about anything. And for me, I'm thinking like, no, I was raised to be an independent woman. I have to work. So I just can't sit here all day. And so I then, despite what he was saying, I think it probably would have been great just to relax, but no, not Ticora. I said, I got to find a job as an attorney. I don't have a lot of time because where I was working, I wasn't using my legal skills. I mean, not wholly. I was doing patent research, but I wasn't doing anything really dealing with trademarks and things of that nature. And so, what I ended up doing was finding a job. I applied at a local law firm, and they were doing entertainment law trademarks, working with creatives. I was like, this is my dream job. I'm so excited. I'm 5.5 months pregnant. He hired me on the spot, and I'm thinking, great, I'm going to get this experience. And it was literally hell working for this man. He was so mean, so nasty. He would yell at us, he would cuss us out. Like, it was a very toxic work environment. And I just maintained my peace even then because I felt very much that whatever I felt my child would feel, I could not allow myself to get upset. And so I was just very calm about everything. And I almost felt like, Ticora, this is your only option. Like, you have to stay here so you can get experience and become an attorney. And then after some time, you can leave. And I think I just convinced myself that that narrative in my head was true because I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just felt like this was my only hope. This was my only option. So I ended up taking maternity leave. This is all in 2016. Had my beautiful son, Miles. And about a month after Miles was born, I said, okay, I'm going to call this crazy guy. I'm going to try to come back to work. And when I got on the phone with him, I'm holding Miles in my arms. Miles, again, is 4 weeks old at the time. And the man says to me, I'm really happy you called. I've been thinking about it since you've been gone, and I no longer think you would be a fit for the success of this firm. I think you need to stay home and get over your pregnancy brain and focus on healing your body. Right, Kim? I was like, what a loser.
Well, that's what, yeah. And what a cop out, and how degrading. And
And I'm just like, at the time I said, okay, I was kind of timid back then. And I said, okay, thank you for the opportunity. And I got off the phone with him. And, I don't think the full weight of what he said to me hit me until a little later because I'm
of course
holding.
it didn't, because you had the pregnancy brain.
Oh, right. And I'm thinking, gosh, when I was there, I was a stellar employee. I helped him find case law and research. I was the one who was doing those things. So, we always, despite what people say, you always have to remind yourself of the truth. I have a great friend, Felicia Kelly, and she always says, Ticora, go back to the facts. That's not a fact that this person tried to tell you you had pregnancy brain and you weren't a great asset. The fact was is that you were a great asset. I had to go back to the facts of what it was. And so really at that moment in time, no income again, brand new baby. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And again, I rush out trying to find work within the job market. And then I began to work these contract legal jobs. And I was getting paid maybe $18 an hour, $20 an hour as an attorney, not working full time, looking for contracts, via email. And I just thought, I'm made for so much more. Like I applied for over 100 legal jobs, didn't get anything back. And I said, Lord, I know you can open a door and no doors are being opened. So are you trying to tell me I'm supposed to start my own law firm? And when I asked that question, a peace came over me. And I thought, I told you, God, I didn't want to do that. I always said I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. Because of my own ignorance. I just thought that's not an option for me. I don't want to do it. But feeling that peace, I said, okay, fine. And I was just driving in my car. I was like, fine, I'm going to do this. And I said, well, what am I going to call this thing? Because I'm not going to call it the Law Office of Ticora Davis. Not doing that, And I thought I was just so random. I know people are like, that girl's talking to herself. But I literally was having a conversation with God because I felt like this is the only being that I can speak to at this moment in time to get clarity. And I've not really heard the audible voice of God many times in my life, but he spoke to me and he said, you're my lawyer, the creator's lawyer. And so that's why I've called my firm the Creator's Law Firm, because I serve the ultimate creator, but I also serve many creative people. And it's really a reminder for me as I work every day. I'm not perfect, but I do try very hard to serve my clients. I'm not just working for them, I'm working for a higher being, a higher calling. And so it's amazing where I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I stopped immediately in October of 2016 applying for other jobs. I began as I was walking into the job every day, those contract positions, and everybody was depressed. You could feel everyone's negative energy. Unfortunately, I began to write my dreams out on the legal pads, those long yellow legal pads they give you. I began to say, I'm going to be the best trademark attorney. I'm going to have clients who come to me from all over the world. I began to write what I wanted out of my life. And I didn't realize what I was doing in the moment because I felt like I have to get some type of control over the situation I'm in. What can I do to make sure that I don't slip into a depression? Because I've been in that before and I refuse to go back. And I think my writing, the power of the pen, the power of dreaming really helped pull me through that season. And in December of that same year, my pastor said, Ticora, God says, make haste. He says for you to open your law firm right now. Do it as fast as you can. He's going to send you clients from all over the world. You have to move now. And I'm looking at my pastor like, dude, I said I was going to open this firm in August of next year, not January. He's like, I'm telling you to do it now. And I think it was just another blind faith in the face of, it doesn't make sense to open up a law firm. You don't hardly know how to do any legal work. You don't have a lot of experience. I opened my law firm January 16th, 2020. A week after I opened, VH1 contacted me to appear on a TV show.
Okay, wait a minute. So you opened your law firm on what date?
January 12th, 2017.
2017. And then you had a contract in your hands.
From VH1, January 20th.
Oh my
Does
goodness.
it give you the goosebumps? Like,
Well, it does. And I just see, like, why is this so much of the time? This is the story of the entrepreneur, because like everything that you're saying is resonating with me. I too went down a path where I worked in a very toxic environment and allowed other people's stories of who they told me I was to infect me, really, and to second guess myself. And so the way that I dealt with that when I was young and immature was trying so hardly to be who I thought I needed to be, so that I didn't make anyone feel threatened, so that everybody loved me and thought I was wonderful. But that also meant that I was supposed to play small and I was supposed to stay mild and meek. And so, and then I went to work for a consulting company, and it was extremely toxic for me. And it got so bad that I too started to have this dream of like, can I do this myself? And I did what you did, Ticora. I started to just have these conversations with God. And it was so funny because I'm married to a really cautious guy when it comes to like finances. Are you too? Because you're giggling. Yeah. And so like I started talking about this dream, and I think he was fine with it until he knew I was serious.
yeah.
And then in June of 2015, I was like, hey, I'm going to throw some workshops and open up my own business. I'm not going to quit like my curriculum director's job yet, but I'm going to get my feet wet. And he was still kind of like, oh yeah, you know, you can make some extra money. And then come September and October, I was like, hey, I think I'm supposed to launch this in January of 2016. And that's when he was like, oh, I think you need more time. And I think we need 6 more months. And he just started having a lot of concerns. But I, like you, just felt like this internal calling that I could not pay attention to.
Mhm.
And so I even asked God, I was like, I decided to throw 2 more workshops in October. And I was like, God, like I need a big ass bulletin board. I need some kind of sign that is like as big as a bulletin board that shows me I'm supposed to do this. And no joke, the very next day, I got a phone call from a school corporation who wanted to sign 66 teachers up for my workshop.
Whoa.
And so it's just so interesting to see and know that people do feel frustrated and you do get told stuff about yourself, and to always do that fact check and that truth check with who you know yourself to be, rather than letting other people impose their stories of who they think you are.
And another thing about that, Kim, is that our families, our loved ones, they want to keep us safe. Like that's what any like I want to keep my children safe. So if I see my son or my daughter about to jump off the couch, I'm like, no, 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 don't do it, right? But as along the way as adults in our life experiences, some way, somehow, our closest loved ones will look at a risk that we're willing to take. You're going to walk away from that great job with benefits, or you're going to start focusing on something else. Let's think about this. Hold on, maybe we shouldn't. And what we have to be very mindful of is, are we allowing someone else to plant seeds of doubt and fear and regret into our hearts? And what will happen is, if those seeds of doubt, fear, and regret grow right alongside your visions and your dreams, something's going to choke the other one out. And oftentimes it's the fear that chokes out your dreams. And then you see how that ties closely with procrastination, with imposter syndrome. Can I really show up? Can I really do it? And we don't realize the closest people to us sometimes were the ones who were the gardeners. And we have to be mindful. We have to pull those weeds up. We have to pull those seeds out. Because if It's our destiny. That's why I'm getting so fired up about it right now, because people don't realize that stagnation and procrastination is just a slow death to your purpose. It's a slow death to your legacy. It's a slow death to economic freedom and generational wealth. So the longer we delay about going after our God breathed, our God designed purpose, the easier it is for us to destroy our legacy. And then we will live at the end of our lives asking ourselves, what happened? What happened along the way that I didn't go after my dreams? Why did I let regret win? Fear doesn't even exist. It's something that we create in our head. It's not like it's going to come and get us. The only time that we should use fear is when it's meant to keep us safe, like from dying, right? Most of us have misplaced fear. Fear does not belong or should not reside in the place that faith should rest. Our faith should rest on our dreams and on our visions, those things that cannot leave you alone, just like your education brand, Kim. It wouldn't leave you alone. You probably have had tons of other ideas and they came and they went, but this one stuck. And it's because that is your destiny. It's your purpose. You are designed to create solutions for the crisis that's happening with teachers and educators and people like that. And so all of our purpose is different, but we have to be so mindful and so bold in what we have been created to do that we won't allow anybody to rob us of our purpose.
Uh, and that's exactly why you call yourself a purpose activator. And like, it makes me get kind of teared up, really, just listening to you explain it that way, because I see so many people who have and encounter them who have felt like we did, Cora, like we just keep trying to fit into that square peg hole, and we can't make ourselves fit. But then we don't feel like we have the ability to do whatever it is that we want to do, or we have these little dreams and we just sit on them and we just procrastinate and we don't pull the plug on them. And you're right. I think that, like, when you do this, it's going to feel scary, but again, fact checking that fear, like, are you going to be homeless? No. Are you going to lose your spouse? Probably not. Are you, like all of these things, but we let this fear overcome us and it prevents us from launching from our lily pad.
Yeah. I read this book. Well, I haven't read it all the way, but I've read most of The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Oh, I too. I've read that too.
That book is so good. Within the first couple of chapters, she talks about how courage and fear are so closely aligned, that the same receptors in your brain that activate fear activate courage, except courage just holds on a little bit longer. So it's so encouraging to me. If I shift my mindset and say, I'm really afraid to do this, then I know that I'm so much closer to actually doing it, because I'm that much closer to impacting or enacting courage, right? If I
Yes.
can turn on courage, that just means that I have to take a little, just push past that fear and launch and do it. Of course, do it with wisdom and strategy, right? But I think we just give too much of our power away to fear, some enigma of our imagination, right? Uh,
Yes.
it's fear is going to be along for the ride. We just can't let it drive us around. It can sit in the back like the dog with his head hanging out the window, but we need to be the ones who's driving the car. We need to be in full control. And when, oh, there's a car coming, you might want to slam on your brakes so you don't run into them. Thank you, fear. You
Exactly.
do what you're supposed to do, right? But you don't
Yes.
drive my car and you don't get to drive my destiny.
Yeah. But what we tell ourselves is that our fears are the truth.
Right.
Right. And then we create a story to back up that evidence, because if we have that evidence, then that's evidence of why we shouldn't take the risk, or why we shouldn't launch the business, or why we shouldn't follow our dream. And so I love what Gay Hendricks talks about, because, in there, he talks about that upper limit problem, and that basically we all have a thermostat setting, right? And so, like, if your thermostat setting is, let's just pretend like you're most comfortable at 72 degrees. And then, like, when you start to create or attain more success or more money or a better relationship or whatever it is, that it changes the thermostat setting. And since you're not used to that new thermostat setting, you will actually self-sabotage yourself to go back to a lower setting. And
Mm.
I thought that spoke to me. I'll never forget, I had just launched Strobel Education in 2016. And like, it really just surpassed my dreams of what I thought it could be. And so my husband and I are at this luxurious resort on the beach. We're enjoying a very much well-deserved vacation. And it's so interesting because I was reading that book. This would have been in May of 2017. I was sitting there reading The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And right before I got to the chapter on that, I was sitting there going, oh, life cannot be this good. Like, I can't believe I can afford to be at this resort. And you know what? It's just pure luck that in 2016, Strobel Ed went crazy, because like, that's just unusual. And I'm not going to have another year like that. And in fact, I started conjuring up these stories because I was so, even though I was enjoying the success, I was so scared of it that I caught myself trying to sabotage myself, you know?
Yeah. And I think we have to be aware. I think a lot of what happens is we're just simply not aware of our own selves, and it just overtakes us. So you probably were just like, these are the thoughts that I normally have, but you didn't label them as self-sabotage. I remember going to my therapist one time, a couple years ago, and she was like, so what do you do when you have anxiety? And I was like, I don't have anxiety. Like, who are you talking to? And it was so funny. Like, she looked at me like, sweetheart, you're here in my office. And she's like, okay, so this is what anxiety is. And she literally said, do you ever feel this? Do you sometimes feel rapid thoughts? Do you sometimes do this? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, that's anxiety. And I was like, gasp, what do you mean? Like, and
Because
it's
you
just,
couldn't see it.
but I think what happens sometimes for Christians is we are so afraid of saying, I have this or I have that, or labeling ourselves, because we're taught, well, the power of life and death is in the tongue. And are you going to say something negative about yourself? So instead of saying it and labeling it for what it is, we will choose to ignore it. And that's so unhealthy. And I realized that's what I was doing. I was refusing to say I had anxiety because I didn't want to speak speak death over myself. And at the end of the day, I can't handle or face a problem if I don't recognize it for what it is. And me saying, okay, I do suffer from anxiety, and here are some tools that I can have and implement and put in place to help me overcome that. That really helped me a great deal. And then I realized, Ticora, your anxiety is closely tied to your procrastination, which is also tied to you being a perfectionist, right? So instead of me saying, well, I can't start it, or I don't even want to try because it's not going to be perfect, or I don't have the knowledge to start to respond to this, so I'm going to continue to put it off. And then because I was afraid of it not being perfect, I didn't even try until I was forced to. We have to be so mindful of ourselves. That's why I think therapy and just self-awareness is
Yeah.
so important for us, especially as an entrepreneur. Many of us don't have supervisors. We don't have people telling us you're doing a great job. Most of the time we hear you're doing a bad job, right? And we don't have people who are going to give us checks and balances along the way. And so you have to create your own internal system to be able to do that. And I think that has helped me a lot. But then I also recognize I have to just grace myself for the impact that I want to have. When we brace ourselves, be with, as in boy, brace ourselves, we are assuming something bad's going to happen. This is how most of us live our life.
Yeah. It's Brene Brown calls it foreboding joy.
Yeah, so we're just assuming like, oh, something terrible is going to happen. This is going to crash, it's going to burn. This is a fluke, right? But what if we graced ourselves for it? Say, okay, well, whatever happens, whatever comes, I'm going to learn. I'm going to, take advantage of the problems that do come my way, and look at the problems as promotion. Anytime a problem comes our way, it's really an opportunity for us to grow and to be promoted and to become wiser. Every time I face a problem in my business, whether it be I let a client down, or I let myself down, or I missed a deadline, I can say, okay, now I'm so much wiser. That will never happen again. But I used to condemn myself because I didn't know what I didn't know. And it's
Yeah.
just not possible. We have to really grace ourselves for this journey if we're going to have longevity.
I think you're exactly right. And I think it's really important for our audience to hear that especially we as women hold ourselves on this measuring stick, and we would never make another loved one have to be in that high esteem or regard to be loved and worthy of doing whatever it is you want to do. But for some reason, we do hold these kind of high expectations where we leave ourselves very little wiggle room, and then we won't take the chance because we tell ourselves we don't have it all figured out yet. I know for me, I knew what I was talking about when it came to education and how I felt we could best meet the needs of our students and how to empower teachers, but I knew nothing about running a business. And I remember reading, I can't remember which book it was, but it was really like, just ask God to be your CEO and your CFO. And that's what I did. I mean, every day I wrote out my gratitudes and I wrote out my affirmations, and I read this little prayer that I had written. And I said, God, I don't have this all figured out, but I need to take you as my CFO and my CEO, and I will look to you for guidance because I don't have to just rely on myself. There is a higher power who wants to support me.
For sure. And I think we have to remember, like, not only is the higher power there to help us, but God, Christ is there to help us. He created us for such a time as this. We were uniquely knitted together in our mother's wombs and brought into this earth because, and I read someone say this, that there is a crisis that's attached to each of our lives. Like, we are supposed to solve a crisis. I know that and if you're struggling with your purpose, a really good way to figure it out is to strip away all your titles. Strip away every single title that you've placed on yourself that you feel it makes you important, or this world thinks it makes you important, and what remains. And when I did that, I took away the title of mother and wife and attorney. And I said, what remains? What remains is that I'm a purpose activator. I'm a purpose accelerator. I'm a life speaker. I'm a dream birther. Like, what that means is that when people come into contact with me, there's something that happens. I hold like spiritual keys, and when people come to me and I speak to them, something unlocks, something clicks inside of them, and they say, thank you. That was the shift that I needed to make in order to go forward and pursue what God has called me to do. And other people, when that happens, it accelerates them. They go even farther and faster than they would have alone. Or I validate people's dreams. That's why it bothers me so much when I see people who are procrastinating about their purpose, and I can see it all over them because it's closely tied and attached to my purpose. It breaks my heart to see people who are stuck. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you ask yourself, what really breaks my heart? Then it'll be very closely tied and attached to what you've been created to do. And so that's how I know that I don't have to practice law forever. I don't have to, my children will grow up. I'll always be a mother. My husband and I were supposed to be together forever, right? But what if things happen and what I used to call myself is no longer there? What shall remain? And that's how I figured out, oh, that's my purpose. Now, it took a while to figure that out, and I'm gaining clarity about it every single day. But that helped me a great deal within the past year to figure out, what am I truly meant to do on this earth? And once I took away all of my titles, I felt like I could see myself so much clearer.
That makes perfect sense. And I love that activity of asking a person to really strip away their titles. And we don't always do that deep dive on ourselves. We all have these outer shells that we're really good at functioning in that persona. But what is really beneath all of that? And I know for me, my words this year, my phrase is inside out, which is like really going deep within myself to uncover what else is there that needs to be brought to the forefront. And I'm becoming more courageous every year with that. I was like you, I was not as confident and too scared to really let my true self be seen. But I have found, like you have, that the more that I do that and the more that I allow the light that is within me to shine in the God-given way that it's supposed to, the more it seems to cause like a ripple effect in my life.
Yeah. And you just never know. It's I feel like it's really sometimes a matter of life and death. Like, we don't realize that, but there's so many broken people that are assigned to our lives, and they don't realize that, and we may not realize it, but if we just show up and we do what we are called to do and we get in position, then we don't know whose lives we're going to impact. I can't tell you how many people that I've impacted by virtue of me owning my own law firm. And many of them are not my clients. It just so happens that they're in connection with my platform, and the inspiration and the encouragement that I provide through my own platform, which I have full control over, is helping people. And they may never hire me, and that's completely fine, but I'm helping them in my own unique way. And I think that that is what we can also do. Infuse your purpose with your profession, with your passion, and you'll realize that you have created a unique platform where you can create community. A lot of people focus on content. They say content is king. I really think community is king. And if you're
Yeah.
able to build a wonderful community and show up as your authentic self, you'll be able to have a brand that will last for decades, if not centuries.
I love that. You're reminding me of, I think it's Simon Sinek that says, when you lose your why, you lose your way.
Yeah.
And so I, like you, know what my why is. Like every day when I'm in this office, I can read sticky note that says, this is my why. This is why I'm showing up today. This is how I want to impact others. When people leave my presence, this is what I hope they leave with. And it is that fire burning desire inside of me. But at first it was just a whisper, right? It was just a whisper. And I just kept paying attention to it. And so I love that we're encouraging our listeners and to identify that within them that wants to be birthed, that wants to come out, that wants to be a contribution to their family or their community or the world at large.
Yeah. Okay, I love it. This is great.
This is a wonderful conversation. So this has given us so much to think about. And again, I do love just tying it to how we're walking in faith, and walking in courage and acknowledging our fears, but also understanding that we have to fact check those fears. And so I could talk to you forever and ever and ever, but we're going to wrap this up. And I want you to tell people where they can find more of Ticora Davis if they want to find more about you.
Definitely. If you want to find more about me, you can follow me on Instagram at Ticora Davis. I know that Kim's going to put that in the show notes. I've also written a book called Planted to Produce: 7 Shifts to Activate Your Creative Soul. It is a powerful book that shows you how to identify where you are on your life's journey and what you need to do to shift to your next level. And
Oh,
so
I love that. Tell us the title again.
I didn't know it. Planted to Produce: seven.
Planted to Produce. So if they want to know more about activating their purpose and finding their path, we will definitely put that in the show notes. I see that you gave me the link right there, and I'll include that. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
I realize it's so funny because I'm like, I need to keep telling people I wrote a book. Like, and that's a bad thing, right? I wrote an entire book, but I kind of downplay it, like, oh yeah, it's just something I did. It's
Yeah,
like,
you got to, yeah, because that message needs to be out there. People need to read that and hear that. And so, yes, you need to step into that a little bit more. Oh my goodness. I love it so much, Ticora. Thank you so much for being on here with us today.
thank you, Kim. It was my pleasure.